Welcome to Under the Lens. Come and enjoy an extraordinary, raw, and unfiltered podcast that delivers debate, discussions, and interviews about film, pop culture, and everything in between. Here is your host, film critic and journalist, Byron Lafayette.
Yeah, so let's get started here. What drew you to the Snake Eyes Deadgame project in the first place?
Well, so I am a way older G.I Joe fan than most people realize, because it's so funny when people, even in the context of all of this the G.I Joe stuff that I've been doing, when I would do different issues and feature different characters, they'd be like, why are you bringing in these lame characters that you're creating? We don't want those. I'm like, that I didn't create that guy. That's from the Adventure Team line. That's before your time. See, you understand, when I'm 7 years old, mm-hmm. I don't have comics yet. Most kids, their first interaction is with toys, before they can read, right? And my ride or die was so this is a vintage G.I Joe, okay, from 1974, the Adventure Team, and this is what G.I Joe had become, and he was an adventurer, mm-hmm. and I had these. I had a couple of these. They were my sandbox. They were my ride or dies. G.I Joe went with me in the car whenever we went on long trips. I had my G.I Joe. My dad, he had a little passive aggressive action telling me, why you got to play with dolls. My mom understood my obsession. But here's the deal: it didn't end there. They had Power Records, which you would listen to these, and these have comic book adventures inside, but you would be guided. Okay, Joe on the back tells you what's going on, but you would be guided. So there's comic book adventures, but there was no G.I Joe comic book. They were in these, and let me tell you something. These were in department stores. Okay, this was in the record section where Power Records, because Power Records did G.I Joe, they did Marvel, they did DC Comics. Dude, you have a real life living 1970s relic that you're talking to. That is my decade. That is my jam. So my first love was my G.I Joe toys. Mm-hmm. And then one day they just left the shelves, and they left completely. And I had no idea where they went, but I had my vintage stuff. And then of course, so that I'm 7. So then almost a decade later, 8 years later, they do the Real American Hero. Now, by that time, I am an avid comic collector. And I see that for the first time, they're going to do a G.I Joe comic book. And I buy, it was a store in Orange County, one that I don't frequent a lot, but it was a great store. It was just really far from, we were down near the beach, and it was a store called Land of Ooze and Oz in Fountain Valley in Orange County. And G.I Joe #1 had just come out. It was a weekend. Books used to be, new comics used to come in on a Friday and on a Wednesday. And I remember going, oh my gosh, double sized, all this action, all these new Joes. And I understood that there was a new toy line and there was a cartoon coming. And I was just completely thrilled. So at that point, like I said, I'm 14. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of I was at the tail end of the Adventure Team, but I'm at the beginning of this new G.I Joe, and of course, like so many others, look, my favorite character is Snake Eyes. Mm-hmm. I'm like, wait. So there's a ninja. I'd seen ninjas in martial arts films. So there's a ninja, but he has a pistol. He has a gun that goes with his sword. And I'm like, and here's the deal, man, that actually turned out to be quite influential for me in regards to my boy, Mr. Poole here, because I carried that aesthetic, because I'm like, hey, and now let me tell you something. I'm kind of skipping to the end, but we're going to fill in the middle. But when Hasbro calls me, says, Rob, we have something special on the way for you, a Snake Eyes Deadgame. Okay, you understand, 7-year-old Rob Liefeld is losing his mind because I'm about to get a delivery of a legit Snake Eyes that is based on my comic book in the red costume, Deadgame. Mm-hmm. This is, I turned him red in Snake Eyes Deadgame 2 for a couple issues. And then in issue 4, I turned him white, kind of like Storm Shadow. I turned him all white because he's in the snow. But the next thing you know, I got a high-end collectible of this. And so I'm like, this is the best thing I ever did, because it was the best decision I ever made. But speaking to my fandom, I'm pre-sold. I'm part of the earliest G.I. Joe lovers. And so IDW had me do a few covers over the years. They had me do a few covers for their G.I. Joe series. And they called me up and they said, Rob, the guys at Hasbro love you. And I can attest that this is true. I found this out. But they said, the guys at Hasbro love you. They would love for you to do a G.I. Joe comic. Is there something with Snake Eyes? Would you love to do it? And I said, well, I have a pretty wild idea. I do. But, and I wrote it down. I submitted it. And fortunately, Hasbro approved every crazy idea I had all along the way. And it turned out to be my favorite experience in 34 years of doing comics. This Snake Eyes project, Hasbro and IDW went out of their way to make this little kid's dream come true. So once they cleared me, we were off and running. And now this thing called the pandemic hit right in the middle, which stalled it out a little. Fans of the character have really been positive. I've had so many people who have told me on social media that they're thrilled that I hitched my ride to G.I. Joe. And then others who've said, I've never bought G.I. Joe before, but I'm experiencing it now because you're doing it. So it's the best of both worlds.
And I wanted to ask, like, what was it like, working with Larry, and stuff, such a legend in the G.I. Joe community.
So 100% at the start of this, I find a friend of mine got this amazing Larry Hama Snake Eye sketch. And so I said to my friend, I said, Ted, we're going to call him Ted P. I said, Ted, what if I got Larry to sign off on letting me ink that, and then I can use it as a cover, but it's your sketch. You paid Larry for it, so it's yours, but I don't want to do it unless Larry approves it. And he says, Rob, feel free to pursue it. Dude, 10 minutes later, I texted Larry Hama. I said, Larry, this is Rob. Can I do this? Is this something you would approve? He's like, Rob, sounds great. Do it. And that was while I was drawing Snake Eyes #1, and it was too late to solicit with the cover of, it was too late to include on issue 1. So then I called my friend Ted and I said, Ted, Larry has given me permission. So I'm going to get, I'll get the sketch, scan the sketch, send it to me. I'll ink it. And then I didn't dare print it until Larry signed off on the finished piece, which again, he said, Rob, looks great. I'm so happy we did this. So knowing that Larry's cover was going to be on 5, not 2, 3, 4, I was going to hold it till 5. I wanted to make it an all-star jam. And including Larry, I wanted to get some of these great legends like Neil Adams and Kevin Eastman. And Neil Adams, for me, and I think anyone would be hard-pressed to argue that he is not the greatest comic book illustrator of all space and time. And those people who aren't familiar with his Batman, his legendary Batman work, his legendary Green Lantern work, his X-Men work, he did a seminal book, kids my age celebrate. DC reprinted it a few years ago in a hardcover. Superman versus Muhammad Ali is one. I
remember that.
It is the most beautiful, most amazingly rendered, drawn, illustrated, laid out comic book of all space and time. Peak Neil Adams, nobody can touch. He was on a level of, he's like the Michael Jordan of comic books. So I know Neil very well. I've got a very friendly relationship with him. I used to always pull up my chair at shows if I had some downtime and chew his ear off. And a couple of years ago, we all went out to dinner. Neil, his wife, my wife, we all, and I pick his brain because his period in comic is my favorite. So he told me, Rob, because I would say, oh, I loved how you inked. I can't believe you occasionally would ink other artists. And he said, Rob, I'm everybody's best inker they ever had. And I'm like, I can't argue. I'm trying to find original art of that stuff and collect it. So I called Neil and said, if Neil Adams says yes, everyone will say yes. It's one of those. Neil was the first call I made. I said, Neil, I've got the Snake Eyes. I've got this, conclusion. Would you be open to drawing, to inking a page over me? And he said, I won't do 1 page. I'll only do it if you give me 2 pages. You got to give me 2, make it a big action-packed spread, and I'll do it. So believe you me, I made sure I gave him the most the biggest, baddest action-packed page in the entire book. I had already had it laid out in thumbnails. I sent it to Neil, 80 years old. This guy wipes everybody's ass. He's so good. The page came back, and I stared at it, and I stared at it, and I hadn't told IDW about this shit yet. I hadn't told them I was building an all-star team. I send them the spread with Neil. And I said, oh, by the way, I'm asking all these artists to join me on this issue. And figured I'd send you the page Neil just did. And my editor said, I'm having trouble responding to you. I can't believe I'm looking at a Neil Adams Inc. Rob Liefeld Snake Eyes spread. He goes, oh my gosh, people are going to lose their minds. And then he goes, who else did you get? And I went, all the names, all the all-stars. And then, of course, Kevin, the King Eastman, Kevin, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, agreed to jam with me. I mean, the guy is a living legend himself. I cannot believe all the great names that signed on to give me. I got the best of the young new talent today: Philip Tan, Ed Pisker, Jim Rugg, Tom Scioli, the classics: Jerry Ordway, Karl Kerschl, guys from my Extreme Studio, Dan Panosian. I mean, it's a fantastic looking issue, and I can tell you that we're doing a black and white version so people can see all the line art, because color, and I have great color on this book. It looks beautiful, but it obscures some of the line art. You can't see all of the artistry. So by taking the color off and just giving people, and we're calling it Snake Eyes Declassified. So I think people are going to totally dig it. But it's just too many, in comic books, we focus too much on the launch issue. And I figured this is my big finale. How do I make it special? So I packed it with irresistible talent. And that's how we're going out.
Oh man, that's exciting.
Covered by Larry Hama. Come on, the creator of Snake Eyes. I mean, it had to happen.
Oh, and that's exciting. And I'm really excited too for the black and white too, because I'm a sucker when it comes to black and white, whether it's movies or anything. And when the Snyder Cut came out in black and white, I was like, okay, I got to watch it. So like anything black and white, I'm excited.
Yeah. So I mean, this way people will get to see all the nitty gritty of the line art. So it'll be great.
Yeah, it's good. In your opinion, when it comes to arguably Snake Eyes is probably one of the most, if not the most popular character in G.I. Joe. He's amazing. And what do you think it is that draws people to his character? What made people fall in love with him, do you think?
Okay, so I love that question, and you're gonna have to just strap in for this answer. Okay? Because look, we are first and foremost a visual medium. Okay, I responded so powerfully when I was 9 years old to Star Wars, because I recognized that Han Solo was the gunslinging cowboy that was going alongside this almost like biblical prophet figure in Obi-Wan Kenobi, who comes out of the desert. I mean, he's like Moses. And then you've got like Darth Vader is like this samurai in black armor, and George was mashing it up. And I had seen enough after school. In the 70s, Monday through Friday, you always got these different movies in the afternoon, all the Planet of the Apes movies, all the Bruce Lee movies. So I got Grindhouse, I got martial arts, I got sci-fi. And I understood, okay, so I'm watching a samurai representation with like a biblical prophet, with like a cowboy, and then machines and robots. It was an ultimate mashup. And it became, like so many other kids, my favorite thing, just based on those visuals, that trailer alone. And a giant, again, get this carpet out of the way, okay? Wookie, what's this giant wolf man? I mean, again, this is prior. I'm 9 years old in 1977. I'm watching these cartoons. I mean, these commercials, and I cannot wait to see this movie. But more importantly, in the in-between time, when we knew that a sequel was coming, because as I've shared with my family, sci-fi magazines named Starlog were like our link. We had to go to the grocery store and look and see what news was coming in. There was an announcement, there's going to be a sequel to Star Wars. I'd never seen a sequel to anything. But then this character is announced, and visually, he just dominates. My friends and I lose our shit. And his name's Boba Fett, okay? He's got a great name. He's got an unbelievable look. And look how powerful that look is. It's now carrying the most popular show on the Disney Channel. I mean, Mandalorian, okay? And now we're getting, Boba Fett got his own show from Mandalorian, and Mandalorian got his own show because Boba Fett was so popular in the first place. And my generation, 11 years old, I had to mow extra lawns to buy extra Star Wars action figures to cut out the proof of purchase that was required to mail in to get a Boba Fett figure mailed to you, because that's how it was. And every day I checked my mailbox, and I remember distinctly the day that the bus dropped me off, and I ran down the street and I opened our mailbox, and there was a white cardboard, like it would fit a tube of toothpaste. And it said, from Kenner to Rob Liefeld. And I knew, holy shit, this is my Boba Fett figure. And I opened it up, and I mean, I lost my crap. Now, here's the deal. I didn't know that he would go on to die like a total bitch, Jedi, and be minimal at best in Empire Strikes Back. Okay. And I got to be, my kid version was not happy with how he was presented, because what I saw was a complete badass that could take everybody on. And that relationship was built through that visual. When Snake Eyes came on the scene, the goggles, the visor, the all black, like I said, a gun and a sword. A gun and a sword. I mean, holy shit. So one of the biggest stores in Orange County, about a year before the Deadpool movie, he carries all the toys, all the comics. His name's Jason. And he's like, hey, Rob, I'm going to tell you something. The thing I love about Deadpool, I've always loved, is he looks like a badass ninja. He goes, I know he's funny and he makes jokes, but it's how he looks. He goes, that's why we sell so many statues. He goes, none of these statues talk back to us. But look at all the Deadpool statues. They're posed with a gun in one hand and a katana in the other, and he's leaping at you. He's in an action pose. And all of that I got from Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes was like the predominant action hero of our generation. So the thing I love about him is the nobility. And what I tried to do with him in Deadgame was put him in way over his head every single issue. My biggest inspiration for all of Deadgame was the Raiders of the Lost Ark movies. He has got to keep this sword of the dead out of the hands of this mythical guy that's been resurrected. Okay. So that at that point, it becomes like the Ark or the Grail. And all of the different, I mean, Snake Eyes, like I said, he's sacrificed to a giant cobra. He goes on a vision quest in issue 4. He battles a giant polar bear before he has to plummet to the depths of an Arctic lake to retrieve Thor's hammer. Yes, I said Thor's hammer. Hasbro signed off on that. Okay. So I was like, what can I put this character through that he hasn't been through? Because he's been through so many military missions. He's behind so many enemy lines, but now I'm giving him this giant mythological legendary adventure. And again, I'm just so thankful that Hasbro and IDW signed off the entire time. They never told me no. And for the people who are looking for the real clues, if you look at my first issue and you see how Kurgan, my bad guy, is depicted, well, he's mummified. Well, maybe my adventures here with Power Records with G.I. Joe encountering a mummy had something to do with that. Or maybe here when he's battling a serpent, I decided, well, maybe I'll just make my serpent way bigger. I was going to on social media disclose how all of these informed my influences, but the entire time, I'm running alongside my younger self. My 7-year-old self was present all the time, because I can't believe I did a G.I. Joe series. Like I can't believe I grew up. I got the job of my dreams. And then I got to do all these bucket list items. And that's what the last kind of 5-6 years has been about for me, just crossing bucket list after bucket list after bucket list off. Because I'm like, I could die soon. I'm not young. I'm not a young guy. I could get some sort of cancer and die. I'm old. So I'm just trying to book these gigs and get them done and get them into collections and get them on bookshelves.
Man, that's amazing, man. I know we're running short a little bit on time here, but I did want to. It's a perfect segue to one other question that I wanted to ask you about being an X-Force kill shot. First I want to say congratulations on such an incredible anniversary and just an amazing history, iconic.
X-Force kill shot is my dream. I told Marvel, like what I tell you, I really live by it. I think I'm going to die any day, and so I'm trying to just jam all this work out before I die. And I'm like, for the 30, I just told one sentence to Marvel. I said, 5 different X-Force teams from different timelines unite to take down their nemesis Strife once and for all. And they're like, good, we're done. Let's go. Here's the deal, man. I'm just going to stick to what I did to get me to the dance. These characters, creating these characters, introducing these characters, changed my career, changed the comic book career, changed the X-Men office. I got a wing I built a wing into the X-Men mansion called X-Force with Deadpool, with Cable, with Domino, with Shatterstar, with all these characters. And so the fans always are very excited when I interact with them with good reason. I'm the daddy. I think I handle them pretty well. I think I know my way around these characters. I think I'm very excited. I've been doing these 30 variants for Deadpool all year long. They have me doing 30 covers for the 30th anniversary, and they're selling out. They're people are just grabbing them. They're just grabbing them, and they're extremely popular. And again, you know, I would have given anything for Steve Ditko to draw one last Spider-Man story 10 years before he died, 20 years before he died. But Steve stopped. And I think when you can snuggle up to your creations again and kick down the door with these characters and kick some righteous ass, and Killshot kicks some righteous ass. I draw for the fans because I am the fan. And if you want to see Cable doing and Shatterstar doing, I'm going to show you them doing that thing. There's a huge emotional component to the end of the book, but getting there is going to be completely action-packed, and it's going to kick all sorts of ass. So I appreciate you, mentioning it and saying nice things.
Oh man, yeah, I can't wait. As soon as it comes out, I'm going to be first in line to buy it. So
thank you so much.
Man, well, I appreciate your time so much. It's been a blast chatting with you, about both these projects.
Hey, I had the best time. Thank you for having me on your show. This was a blast. I love talking comics, and I love talking comics with you, man.